Did you know there's a number that completely rewires your brain when it comes to money? It's just $10,000 in savings. That's right. Hitting that first 10K milestone transforms how your brain processes every financial decision you make. This seemingly modest amount creates far more impact on your money mindset than most people realize. And I've got the psychology behind it that nobody's talking about. The shocking reality: America's savings emergency. Did you know that 59% of Americans can't handle a $1,000 emergency without going into debt? That's literally saying most people are one flat tire or broken water heater away from a financial meltdown. And honestly, that's terrifying. This statistic represents a nationwide psychological emergency, not just a financial one. Millions of people wake up every morning with that low-key anxiety humming in the background, that feeling of, what if something goes wrong today? It's like having alarm bells constantly ringing in your brain. That's no way to live, but it's become totally normal for most Americans. The really wild part? While Instagram and YouTube are drowning us in advice about the best budgeting apps and skipping your morning coffee, nobody's talking about what really matters: the mental prison that comes with having zero financial cushion. We're so focused on the tools and tricks that we're completely missing the psychological warfare happening in people's heads when they have no safety net. When your brain is constantly in emergency mode, it physically can't make good long-term financial decisions. Science proves this. Brain scans of people under financial stress show activity in the same regions that light up during physical pain. Your broke brain literally experiences pain when thinking about money, like touching a hot stove, but the burn happens every time you check your bank account. Think about what that means in real life. When your car breaks down and you have zero savings, your brain isn't calmly weighing the pros and cons of different repair options or financing choices. It's freaking out in survival mode, making decisions from a place of panic. You're not thinking clearly because your brain is too busy sending emergency signals throughout your body. This creates a nasty cycle where financial stress leads to worse decisions, which creates more financial stress, which leads to even worse decisions. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle without the right approach, the deeper you sink. Living paycheck to paycheck rewires your brain to make short-term decisions that keep you broke. Your brain focuses exclusively on immediate relief rather than long-term gain. That temporary dopamine hit from buying something now feels way more important than the abstract future benefit of saving that money. This psychological trap explains one of the most frustrating patterns I see all the time: why so many people who get raises, tax refunds, or bonuses immediately spend them rather than save. When your brain has been in scarcity mode for months or years, it treats any extra money as a rare opportunity for relief, rather than a building block for the future. I had a friend who got a $3,000 bonus at work after a year of struggling financially. Instead of using it to start an emergency fund, she immediately booked a vacation. When I asked her about it, she said, "I've been stressed for so long, I deserve this break." And you know what? In that moment, her brain genuinely couldn't see another option. The psychological need for relief was too powerful. Those alarm bells had been ringing for so long that silencing them, even temporarily, seemed like the only rational choice. But here's the good news. Psychology also shows us there's a specific savings threshold that can completely transform this mental pattern. It's like a switch that flips in your brain, changing how you process financial decisions at a fundamental level and finally silencing those constant alarms. That $10,000 milestone isn't just a random number. It's actually the point where research shows your brain starts processing money differently. It's where most people transition from constant financial emergency thinking to actual strategic thinking about wealth. When you hit $10 in savings, something magical happens in your psychology. The constant background anxiety starts to fade. Your brain literally begins to function differently when making financial decisions because it's no longer in survival mode. You start to see opportunities instead of just threats. I've seen this transformation happen with hundreds of people. Below $10, they make financial decisions from a place of fear and scarcity. Above 10K, they make decisions from a place of strategy and growth. The person is the same, the income is often the same, but the psychology is completely different. Throughout the rest of this video, we're going to explore exactly what happens in your brain when you cross that 10K threshold, and why it changes everything about your financial future. You'll learn about 3 specific mindset shifts that occur, and how they transform not just your money, but your entire approach to life. But before we get to the good stuff about the transformation, we need to understand what's keeping so many people stuck in financial survival mode in the first place. Because if most Americans can't handle even small emergencies, we need to figure out what's really going on in their heads and how to fix it. The scarcity trap, how your brain works against you. What if I told you that being broke isn't just stressful? It literally makes you temporarily less intelligent. The psychological trap keeping most people financially stuck goes way deeper than bad spending habits or not having a budget app. It's an actual brain hijacking that's practically impossible to think your way out of while you're in it. Picture yourself trying to stick to a strict diet while you're absolutely starving. Your brain is screaming for calories, and suddenly that kale salad you promised yourself seems like torture compared to that delicious pizza your coworker just ordered. That same biological override happens with your finances when you're struggling. Your brain isn't being weak or undisciplined. It's actually following its prehistoric programming to prioritize immediate survival over future planning. Psychologists call this mental state the scarcity mindset. This is a legitimate neurological response that kicks in when your resources feel limited. Think of it like your brain's emergency power mode, shutting down non-essential functions to focus all energy on solving the immediate crisis. The fascinating and kind of terrifying part? When researchers study what happens to your cognitive abilities during financial stress, they discovered something wild. Your brain experiences what scientists call a cognitive tax. You temporarily lose about 13 IQ points when money worries dominate your thinking. That's roughly the same cognitive impact as pulling an all-nighter or having a few too many drinks. This mental fog persists as long as your financial situation remains stressful, unlike a hangover that clears after a good night's sleep. Let that sink in for a second. The same person, with the exact same education, intelligence, and capabilities, literally becomes measurably less intelligent when their brain is preoccupied with financial scarcity. This cognitive impairment directly affects decision-making. Perfectly smart, capable people make financial choices that look obviously bad from the outside because their mental bandwidth is so consumed by immediate money concerns that their brain physically can't access its long-term planning capabilities. Ever notice how you start each month with good intentions about saving money, but by the time bills pile up, your brain just says, screw it, and you end up ordering takeout you can't afford? That's your scarcity-affected brain in action. Behavioral. Economists Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir identified this as the scarcity cycle. Financial stress triggers short-term thinking, which leads to financial mistakes, like high-interest payday loans or credit card advances, creating even more financial stress. This cycle continues until you feel completely trapped. The worst part of the scarcity trap is that you don't even realize your brain is in emergency mode. When you're in it, every financial choice feels completely rational and justified in the moment. That splurge purchase? I deserve something nice after all this stress. That ignored bill? I'll definitely have more money next week to deal with it. Your brain creates logical-sounding justifications for decisions that are actually driven by your scarcity response. This explains why some people who get a sudden windfall like a tax refund or small inheritance immediately spend it on something non-essential instead of building their safety net. Their brain has been in emergency mode for so long that it desperately grabs any resource that appears and uses it to temporarily escape the psychological pain of scarcity. It's not weakness, it's a survival mechanism that's gone haywire in our modern financial environment. And let's talk about the emotional toll this takes. When you're stuck in scarcity mode, financial anxiety and shame become your constant companions. You might feel completely inadequate or incapable of managing money, leading to avoidance behaviors where you don't even want to look at your bank account. Some people develop what psychologists call doom spending, deliberately overspending on non-essential items as a coping mechanism for financial stress. It's your brain saying, well, if I'm going to be broke anyway, I might as well enjoy something in the process. So how do you break free from this mental prison? This is where that magic 10K savings threshold comes into play. When your brain finally has enough of a safety cushion to relax its emergency response, you experience a profound cognitive shift. It's about reaching the psychological threshold where your brain can escape the scarcity trap and access its full decision-making capabilities again. Think of it like trying to climb out of a deep hole. When you're at the bottom, zero savings, every inch of progress requires maximum effort. But once you reach a certain height, you can finally grab onto ledges and handholds that weren't accessible from below. That's why saving your first $10 is so mentally challenging. You're fighting against your brain's hardwired survival mechanisms the entire way up. The concept of financial self-efficacy plays a huge role here too. This is basically your belief in your ability to handle money situations effectively. When trapped in scarcity mode, your financial self-efficacy plummets, making you less likely to attempt positive financial changes. Why try if you're just bad with money, right? But each step toward that $10 threshold builds your financial confidence, creating a positive feedback loop that actually makes saving easier the closer you get to your goal. Understanding this brain science explains something counterintuitive: why saving your second $10 is typically way easier than saving your first, even without any change in income. The psychological battle gets significantly easier once your brain escapes the scarcity trap. Your thinking transforms from survival mode reactions to strategic planning, unleashing cognitive resources you didn't even realize were being suppressed. Mindset shift number 1, from cost-based to value-based thinking. With your brain now escaping the scarcity trap, let's talk about the weird shopping psychology of financially secure people. Why they'll happily spend big on some things while acting completely cheap about others. Ever wonder why someone who owns designer shoes might refuse to pay for parking, or why your rich aunt buys expensive cookware but reuses Ziploc bags? The answer lies in the first critical mindset shift your brain makes at the $10 mark. This transformation is profound. When you have less than $10 saved, your brain runs on a different operating system for money decisions. Every purchase gets filtered through a single primitive question: can I afford this right now? This is what psychologists call cost-based thinking, focusing solely on the immediate hit to your bank account. The problem? Cost-based thinking puts financial blinders on you. You're so fixated on today's price tag that you become blind to the true cost over time. Ironically, this hyper-focus on saving money actually makes you spend more in the long run. Real-life example: work shoes. With cost-based thinking, you grab the $30 pair because $30 beats 100, right? But those cheap shoes quickly develop that annoying flap in the sole, the fake leather cracks, and they're in the trash after 6 months. Meanwhile, someone with value-based thinking invests in the $120 pair with real leather that molds to their feet, solid stitching, and replaceable soles that last 3 solid years. Do the math. You'll spend $180 replacing those uncomfortable worn-out shoes over 3 years, while the expensive shoe buyer saved $60 and enjoyed blister-free comfort. Terry Pratchett brilliantly explained this in his Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. Cost-based thinking isn't a personality flaw. It's your brain's response to financial scarcity. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your cognitive resources are so drained by money stress that your brain physically cannot perform the complex calculations needed for value-based decisions. The magic happens at that $10K threshold. Your brain physically relaxes. The constant background hum of financial anxiety quiets down. Suddenly, you have the mental bandwidth to evaluate purchases differently. Your questions transform. Beyond just asking, what's the price, you start naturally asking, How long will this last? What's the cost per use? Will this save me money over time? Does this solve a recurring problem? Consider kitchen storage containers. A cost-based thinker buys the $8 set that warps after 3 microwave uses, stains from tomato sauce, and leaves your leftovers tasting like plastic. A value-based thinker might spend $35 on containers with airtight seals that snap satisfyingly, can go from freezer to microwave without warping, and keep food fresh twice as long, reducing food waste and saving grocery money. This explains the seemingly contradictory spending choices of financially secure people. They'll invest in quality tools, good mattresses, or reliable appliances without hesitation. But those same people might drive across town to save on gas or bring their own snacks to the movies. They're making precise value calculations. The quality winter coat is worth the premium because it delivers warmth and durability for years. The airport water isn't worth $5 because it's identical to the 50-cent bottle elsewhere. It's not random stinginess, it's mathematical. The liberating part? Value-based thinking often results in spending less overall, just in a completely different pattern. You buy fewer, better things while eliminating impulse purchases that don't deliver lasting value. I watched this change in my friend who crossed the $10 savings mark after years of struggling. Before, her apartment was filled with the cheapest version of everything: wobbly furniture, electronics that constantly glitched, and clothes that pilled after 2 washes. Within months of hitting 10K, her approach completely shifted. She researched purchases carefully, sometimes spending weeks deciding on a single item. She saved for quality pieces rather than grabbing the cheapest option. Her overall spending actually decreased, but her quality of life improved dramatically because she wasn't constantly dealing with disappointing, broken stuff. What's happening is a shift from reactive to proactive financial thinking. When you're financially stressed, your brain can't do the long-term calculations because immediate needs are screaming for attention. It's like trying to plan a healthy diet while you're starving. But once you reach that financial breathing room, your brain automatically upgrades to more sophisticated thinking. Value-based decisions consider all the hidden costs of cheap products: the frustration of frequent replacements, the time wasted on repairs, the poor performance, and the mental drain of using things that don't work well. You begin weighing long-term benefits against short-term prices without even trying. The best part? This mindset shift happens automatically. Once your brain escapes the scarcity trap, it naturally begins making these more sophisticated calculations. You don't have to force it. This value-based filter extends beyond purchases to everything in your life. You begin evaluating relationships, job opportunities, and time commitments through the same lens. Is this friendship worth the emotional investment? Is this job opportunity valuable long-term? Is this commitment worth the ongoing cost to my well-being? You become more intentional with all your resources, not just money. Mindset shift number 2. Transforming how you navigate your entire life. The power of financial optionality. That strategic mindset you develop with $10 doesn't just change what you buy, it completely transforms what you can say no to. Think about it. When was the last time you accepted something you didn't really want, simply because you couldn't afford to wait for something better? This hidden desperation tax is silently draining money from millions of Americans, and it might be the biggest financial advantage that nobody's talking about. The real superpower that comes with having 10K in savings is the freedom of choice it gives you. Financial optionality means having enough breathing room to make decisions based on what you actually want, rather than what you desperately need right this second. When you're living with next to nothing in your account, you end up accepting whatever comes your way first. That horrible job with the toxic boss, you take it. That overpriced apartment because you need to move immediately, you sign the lease. That car loan with ridiculous interest because your vehicle broke down, you agree to the terms. You're making these decisions because you literally can't afford to wait for better options. Check out this mind-blowing research. People with less than $1,000 in savings pay about 14% more for the exact same stuff as everyone else. That's a massive financial penalty for being broke. And it happens in ways that are super easy to miss. In everyday life, when you're running low on funds, you can't buy in bulk when things go on sale. You can't wait for seasonal discounts. You can't spend more upfront for the subscription that would save you money over time. You're stuck paying whatever the price is right now, because waiting isn't an option. This financial constraint affects literally every money decision in your life. With minimal savings, you'll likely accept the first offer for anything: jobs, apartments, loans, services. You can't negotiate effectively because the other person knows you don't have the power to walk away. And that position costs you serious money over time. At $10, something fascinating happens in your brain. You stop thinking, I have to accept this, and start thinking, is this actually the right choice for me? That psychological shift is massive, like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone. Suddenly, options you never considered become available. My friend Jamie demonstrated this perfectly. For years, she jumped between mediocre jobs because she couldn't afford any employment gaps. She made decent money, but spent it all keeping up with bills, never building that cushion. When she finally hit $10 in savings, she approached her job search completely differently. She turned down 2 offers that weren't quite right and negotiated a 22% higher salary at the 3rd place because she could afford patience. That single decision, enabled by having options, added more to her income than years of penny pinching ever could. This mindset shift gives you what investors call walking power, the ability to confidently walk away from bad deals. When negotiating anything, a car, salary, home, the person who can walk away always has the upper hand. Without savings, you're negotiating from weakness, and trust me, the other side can smell desperation a mile away. Having that $10K also allows you to take strategic risks that could significantly accelerate your wealth. Maybe it's starting a side business, investing in additional training, or jumping on investment opportunities when markets dip. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, these opportunities might as well not exist because you can't access them. Financial optionality is about the mental freedom that comes with knowing you have choices. It's about making decisions from a place of what's best rather than what's necessary. My cousin Alex is another great example. For years, he stayed at a dead-end job because he couldn't risk even 2 weeks without a paycheck. After building his emergency fund to $10K, he felt confident enough to take a calculated risk on a contract position that paid 40% more. The contract eventually turned into a full-time role with benefits, a leap he never would have taken without his financial cushion. This mindset affects non-financial decisions too. People with financial optionality tend to have healthier relationships because they're not staying with partners out of economic necessity. They're more authentic at work because they're not terrified of losing jobs over minor disagreements. They even make healthier choices because they're not constantly in crisis mode. What's really interesting is how this reverses typical power dynamics. With options, suddenly you have leverage. Businesses must earn your business. Employers must make competitive offers. It completely flips the script. Here's a real example. When my water heater broke last year, I needed to replace it immediately. Because I had savings, I could get multiple quotes and choose a quality installer, rather than whoever could come out same day. I paid about $300 less than my neighbor who needed immediate service because they couldn't handle cold showers for even a day longer. That $300 might not sound life-changing, but multiply that advantage across hundreds of financial decisions over your lifetime, and the difference becomes enormous. It's a hidden advantage that keeps giving returns year after year. The $10K threshold is where most people first experience this psychological shift from acceptance to choice. You start approaching opportunities with a different question. Not, do I have to say yes, but do I want to say yes? That subtle change in thinking leads to dramatically better decisions in every area of your financial life. Mindset shift number 3, the confidence multiplier effect. Here's the weird thing about hitting $10K in savings. It doesn't just change how you handle money, it transforms how you see yourself. That shift from do I have to say yes to do I want to say yes is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a fascinating psychological effect that kicks in when you reach this financial milestone that explains why some people suddenly start crushing it in their careers, relationships, and health right after hitting this number. It's not coincidence, it's science. Let's talk about something psychologists call financial self-efficacy. Fancy term, I know. But it basically means your belief in your ability to manage money effectively and reach your financial goals. This belief system spills over into practically every area of your life. Think about it. When you've never been able to save even a few $100s, let alone thousands, you start to internalize this limiting belief that you're just bad with money. It becomes part of your identity, like being not a math person or terrible at directions. We tell ourselves these little stories that become self-fulfilling prophecies. Because if you're just not good with money, why even bother trying to save? It feels pointless. This negative self-image creates a psychological barrier that's way more powerful than any spending habit. You might download budgeting apps or read financial books, but deep down, you don't really believe you can succeed. Let me share a real example. One of my coaching clients, Jessie, struggled for years to save, never getting beyond $2,000 before some emergency would wipe out her progress. After implementing some psychological strategies we discussed, she finally pushed past that barrier and reached 10K. Within the next 6 months, completely unprompted by me, she also started a meditation practice, joined a community soccer league, and had a conversation with her boss that led to a promotion. When I asked what sparked all these changes, she said, "I just feel like I'm the kind of person who follows through on things now." That's what I call the confidence multiplier effect in action. One achievement creating a ripple effect of positive change throughout your life. Something remarkable happens when you finally hit that 10K mark. The achievement itself serves as undeniable evidence to your brain that you can accomplish difficult financial goals. It directly challenges that bad with money story you've been telling yourself for years. This isn't positive thinking mumbo-jumbo. Research has uncovered that financial self-efficacy mediates the relationship between financial literacy and investment behavior. In human speak, it means that knowing a lot about money isn't enough. You need to believe in your ability to use that knowledge effectively. And that confidence is exactly what $10 gives you. Once your brain recognizes you can achieve challenging financial goals, it starts to question what other impossibilities might actually be possible for you. Could you ask for that promotion? Start that side business? Improve that relationship? Get in shape? Dr. Charles Chaffin's research highlights how crucial financial self-efficacy is for deeper relationships, not just with money, but with the people in your life. That 10K milestone creates a foundation of confidence that makes you more likely to seek help, collaborate with others, and take calculated risks in your career and personal life, empowering you to have difficult conversations you might have avoided before. Studies back this up. The relationship between financial self-efficacy and overall life satisfaction has a causal link where achievements in one domain boost confidence in others. This means your newfound money confidence will likely translate into more assertive career moves and healthier relationship choices. This confidence boost is particularly powerful for young adults. Financial self-efficacy helps navigate challenges and reduces stress about money. When you feel confident in your money abilities, you experience less anxiety in every area of life. The mental energy you use to spend worrying about money gets freed up for other pursuits. What's especially cool is how this process creates a virtuous cycle. Each new achievement reinforces your self-efficacy, making you more likely to set and achieve even more ambitious goals. Before you know it, you're thinking differently about yourself and your capabilities. Hitting 10K doesn't magically solve all your problems, but it does give you the psychological foundation to tackle those problems with a completely different mindset. It's like upgrading your brain's operating system from survival mode 1.0 to strategic growth 3.0. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but I'm nowhere near $10 yet, so how does this help me? That's a totally fair question. Understanding this psychological transformation gives you a much more compelling reason to pursue that savings goal. You're pursuing a complete mental upgrade that will benefit every area of your life. Even better, you can start developing aspects of this mindset before you hit the full 10K. Setting smaller milestone goals, like 500s, 1,000, $2,500, and celebrating when you reach them starts building that self-efficacy muscle. Each mini success reinforces your identity as someone who can set financial goals and achieve them. This approach works because it addresses what's really holding most people back. Not a lack of information or tools, but a fundamental belief about what kind of person they are and what they're capable of achieving. The 10K threshold matters precisely because it's challenging enough that reaching it requires a meaningful change in habits and mindset. Practical technique number 1, the financial freedom visualization. Changing your mindset is great, but let's get practical for a sec. Did you know your brain literally can't tell the difference between vividly imagining something and actually experiencing it? This weird quirk of neuroscience is how Olympic athletes train for gold medals, and it might be the missing piece in your journey to financial confidence. When most people think about visualization for money goals, they immediately imagine sprawling mansions, fancy cars, or island vacations. But here's the problem. Visualizing those luxury items actually makes your brain categorize wealth as something distant and unattainable. It's like watching a movie about someone else's life rather than rehearsing your own future. The science behind effective financial visualization is surprisingly practical. Visualization trains your brain to operate from a place of security before you've physically reached that milestone. Think of it like a mental rehearsal that creates neural pathways your brain can follow later. What makes this approach powerful? Instead of focusing on the stuff money can buy, you focus on the feelings and options that come with having a financial safety net. The emotional experience of abundance shifts your psychology far more than dreaming about material markers of wealth. Let me walk you through how to do this properly. Spend about 5 minutes each morning, yes, literally set a timer, visualizing checking your bank account and seeing $10,000 there. Feel the warmth spreading across your chest as you realize you could handle an unexpected bill. Notice how your breathing slows down, your shoulders drop away from your ears, and your jaw unclenches when financial worry lifts. Make this visualization rich with sensory details. Feel the weight of your phone in your hand as you check your balance. Notice how your posture straightens and your voice becomes steadier when talking about future plans. Experience your heartbeat remaining calm when unexpected expenses pop up. That physical sensation of stability is what you're training your brain to expect. The technique becomes particularly powerful when you imagine specific scenarios. Picture your car making that weird noise it sometimes makes. Without savings, your stomach immediately knots up, your breathing becomes shallow, and panic sets in. But with $10 in savings, your shoulders stay relaxed, your mind stays clear, and you calmly call a mechanic, knowing this won't derail your entire life. Or imagine getting a job offer that's not quite right. Feel what it's like to have the power to say, I appreciate the offer, but I'm looking for something that's a better fit. Experience that sensation of having options rather than obligations. The steady pulse, the clear mind, the sense of control. A client of mine named Marcus struggled with this at first. He'd tried visualization before, but he kept picturing a future where he was rich enough to never worry about money, which actually made him feel worse about his current situation. When I had him switch to visualizing having just $10 in savings and the specific emotions that would bring, everything changed. He started making different decisions almost immediately, turning down an expensive weekend trip with friends without feeling deprived because he was connected to his bigger goal. This technique works even if you're nowhere near your 10K goal yet. Your brain forms new neural connections during vivid imagination, just like it does during physical practice. Olympic athletes use this same principle. Mentally rehearsing perfect performances triggers muscle responses similar to actual training. Your financial behavior follows this same pattern. By consistently visualizing yourself with $10, your brain builds pathways that support saving rather than spending. You prime yourself to make decisions from abundance rather than scarcity before you've saved $1. When you connect deeply with feelings of security, the relaxed muscles, deeper breathing, and mental clarity, Your brain begins to crave that state, creating motivation that goes beyond just wanting a bigger number. Don't rush through this exercise. The power comes from consistency. Those daily 5 minutes gradually rewire how you approach every financial decision. Many people try visualization for a day or two, don't see immediate results, and give up. But the transformation happens through repetition, gradually changing your default responses to money situations. This practice corrects what psychologists call affective forecasting, our ability to predict how future situations will make us feel. Most people overestimate how happy material purchases will make them and underestimate the emotional value of financial security. Regular visualization strengthens the neural connection between savings and positive physical sensations. Think of this practice as creating a mental template your actual life can grow into. Many clients report that once they reached 10K, it felt strangely familiar, almost like they'd been there before. That's because, in a neural sense, they had been. One important note, this isn't about denying reality. The visualization should always end with you opening your eyes and acknowledging your current situation, but now with the added motivation and framework to change it. Try combining this technique with physical actions that reinforce the visualization. After your morning session, take one concrete step toward your goal, even if it's just transferring $5 to savings. This creates a powerful connection between your mental practice and physical reality. Financial visualization costs nothing, takes minimal time, and addresses what's often the biggest obstacle to reaching $10. Not lack of income, but a mindset that keeps defaulting to scarcity-based decisions. Practical technique number 2. Psychological distance and money automation. Now that visualization has prepped your mindset, let's talk about why your money literally needs to play hard to get. Your brain has a weird relationship with cash. It can easily access, like that friend who swears they'll just have one cookie from the jar sitting right on their desk. What if the secret to saving isn't willpower at all, but simply making your money slightly harder to reach? Here's the psychological trap we all fall into. When money sits in your checking account, your brain automatically labels it as spendable. Regardless of what budget spreadsheet you've created or what savings goals you've set, that $500 you're mentally saving for your emergency fund, as long as it's sitting in your checking account, your brain sees it as fair game for that spontaneous concert ticket or that cute jacket that's totally an investment piece. This happens because your brain categorizes money based on accessibility, not intention. The craziest part is that this happens automatically, without you even realizing it. You transfer money to your regular savings account, feel super responsible, then 2 weeks later find yourself borrowing from it because it's just so easy to move it back. And once you've done it once, that mental barrier gets weaker and weaker. Creating psychological distance between you and your savings is crucial for reaching that 10K milestone. Think of it like putting the cookie jar on the top shelf. Not impossible to reach, but just difficult enough that you have to really want it. So how do you create this magical money distance? It comes down to 2 key steps. 1. Open a high-yield savings account at a completely different bank than your checking account. This creates both physical and mental separation between spending money and savings. 2. Automate the entire process with transfers that happen right after payday. For that first step, look for specific features that create helpful friction. Choose an account without a debit card so you can't impulsively swipe for purchases. Even better, pick an account that takes 1 to 2 days to transfer money back to your checking. That built-in waiting period acts as a cooling-off period for your spending impulses. When you have to wait 48 hours to access your money, something magical happens. Your brain is forced to ask, do I really need this thing right now? Most of the time, that initial dopamine rush of wanting to buy something fades during the waiting period, and you end up keeping your savings intact. That little speed bump of time creates a psychological checkpoint that prevents emotional spending. By the time the money becomes available, you might not even want the item anymore. For the second step, automation is absolutely game-changing. When money moves automatically before you even see it in your checking account, your brain never gets the chance to categorize it as spendable in the first place. You can't miss what you never had the opportunity to spend. There's a weird psychological phenomenon that happens when you automate your savings. Your brain actually adapts to living on less. After a few pay cycles, you stop even thinking about that money that's automatically whisked away. Your lifestyle naturally adjusts to the amount that stays in your checking account, making saving completely painless. The effectiveness of automated savings is proven by research showing that people who automate their savings are dramatically more likely to accumulate funds compared to those who try to save manually. Automation removes the cognitive load associated with saving, making it easier to stick to your financial goals without constantly having to exercise willpower. Think about how much mental energy you currently spend deciding whether to save or spend. With automation, that entire mental debate disappears. You've already made the decision once, and now it happens automatically every pay period without requiring any additional mental effort. Another effective trick is removing saved credit card information from your online shopping accounts. When you have to manually get up, find your wallet, and input your card details, you introduce just enough friction to make impulsive purchases less likely. Every little barrier helps increase what behavioral economists call the pain of paying, which works in your favor when you're trying to save. Take my client Jamie, for example. She struggled to save despite earning a solid income because her savings account was linked to her checking with instant transfers available 24/7. Every tough day meant new shoes ordered as self-care. Within just 3 months of switching to a separate high-yield account with a 48-hour transfer window and setting up automatic transfers, she saved $3,500, more than she'd managed in the previous 2 years combined. The beauty of this technique is that it doesn't rely on superhuman discipline or completely changing your personality. It simply acknowledges how your brain actually works and creates an environment where saving becomes the path of least resistance. This approach becomes even more powerful the longer you use it. As your savings grow, that psychological distance protects larger amounts from your impulsive spending brain. Before you know it, you'll hit that 10K threshold where all those mindset shifts we discussed earlier start to kick in. This is why saving the first 10K isn't about earning more money. It's about outsmarting your own psychology. When you create distance between yourself and your savings, you're essentially putting guardrails on your financial highway. Technique number 3, making it the much social media money detox. Those financial guardrails we just talked about, they're basically useless if your phone is constantly showing you stuff to buy. While you're busy creating psychological distance from your money, your favorite apps are waging a silent war against your savings goals and winning. Here's something wild. Researchers found that scrolling through Instagram for just 10 minutes increases your desire to spend money by a whopping 87%. That quick social scroll during your coffee break is literally programming your brain to blow your budget before you even finish your latte. Social media has become the ultimate saboteur of our financial goals, and most of us don't even realize it's happening. You might think you're just checking out what your friends are up to, but what you're actually doing is exposing yourself to a carefully curated highlight reel that makes your perfectly good life suddenly feel inadequate. Our brains are hardwired for social comparison. It's an evolutionary thing that helped our ancestors figure out where they ranked in the tribe. But social media has taken this natural tendency and cranked it up to 11. Every time you see someone posting about their amazing vacation in Bali, their brand new Tesla, or that impossibly perfect apartment, your brain gets a little hit of what psychologists call lifestyle inadequacy. The worst part? Most of what you're seeing isn't even real. That influencer with the perfect apartment probably rents it for photo shoots. That friend with the luxury vacation? Drowning in credit card debt. But your brain doesn't process these images with that context. It just registers, they have it, I don't, and starts creating an emotional response that leads to spending money you should be saving. This constant exposure creates reference point inflation. Your idea of what's normal or necessary keeps getting more expensive as you scroll. Suddenly, your perfectly functional phone seems outdated. Your comfortable apartment feels shabby. your reasonable wardrobe seems boring. And before you know it, you're shopping online for stuff you didn't even know you needed until Instagram showed it to you. The result? You're constantly feeling behind and deprived, even if objectively, you're doing just fine compared to most people. That feeling of perpetual lack is the exact opposite of what you need to build your first $10 in savings. But don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to delete all your social media accounts and live like a digital hermit. Instead, what you need is a strategic social media money detox that helps your brain and your bank account coexist peacefully. This detox is about strategically curating your digital environment to support your financial psychology instead of sabotaging it. Think of it like cleaning out your fridge when you're trying to eat healthier. You're just making sure the foods around you support your goals. Here's your 3-step detox plan. First, unfollow or mute accounts that trigger spending urges. This includes obvious culprits like luxury influencers, but also friends who constantly showcase new purchases. If scrolling past an account makes you open shopping apps within minutes, that's your signal to hit mute for a while. You don't have to unfriend them in real life. Just mute their content as you're building your savings momentum. Second, actively seek out financial independence content creators who normalize saving and reasonable spending. Fill your feed with people sharing realistic money journeys and practical wealth-building tips. Your algorithm will quickly learn to show you more money-smart content and less shopping temptation. The more you engage with content about saving and smart money management, the more of that content you'll see. Third, practice mindfulness when you scroll. When you feel that pang of envy or sudden urge to shop, pause and name the feeling. Creating this awareness reduces the emotional power these images have over your spending habits. Experts recommend becoming more conscious of these emotional responses as a key part of breaking the spending cycle. Take Taylor, one of my clients, who installed a screen time app that limited her social media use to 30 minutes per day. I didn't realize how much time I was spending comparing my life to others until I put a limit on it, she told me. Now I feel so much more content with what I have. She saved over $200 in the first month and significantly reduced her financial anxiety. Consider scheduling specific social media breaks throughout your week. Maybe you declare Sundays a scroll-free zone, or implement a rule that you don't check social media during the first hour after waking up or the last hour before bed. These boundaries create space for your brain to reset from the constant bombardment of buy this messages. You might also try a complete social media cleanse for a weekend or full week to reset your reference points. Many people report that after even a short break, they return with a clearer perspective on what content actually adds value versus what simply triggers spending urges. Creating a healthy relationship with social media isn't just about what you consume, it's also about how you respond. Try keeping a wanted then waited list of items you felt compelled to buy after seeing them online, but ultimately decided against. Looking back at this list often reveals how quickly these must-haves lose their appeal. By changing your social media diet, you're literally reprogramming what your brain perceives as normal financial behavior. Over time, your idea of what's reasonable to spend money on will shift closer to reality and further from the hyper-consumerist fantasy world that dominates most social feeds. The paradox of the first 10K, why it gets easier. While reprogramming your social media habits helps reset your spending triggers, there's an even bigger psychological shift waiting on the other side of your first 10K. What if I told you that saving your second $10,000 typically takes half the time of your first, even without making more money? It's the financial equivalent of pushing a boulder uphill, only to discover it rolls itself downhill once you reach the peak. Weird, right? Most of us naturally assume that saving gets harder as the numbers get bigger. Saving 20K should logically be twice as difficult as saving 10K. But the psychological reality completely flips this assumption. This creates a frustrating situation where people struggling with financial anxiety and scarcity thinking, who would benefit most from reaching that 10K milestone, face the steepest psychological climb. It's like needing a ladder to reach a ladder that would make climbing easier. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. When you're working toward that first 10K, you're running a psychological marathon with a brain programmed to sprint. Our brains evolved during times when resources were scarce, hardwiring us to prioritize immediate consumption over saving. Every dollar you try to save activates ancient scarcity responses, screaming, "Use it now before it's gone." When you first start saving, you're building brand new neural pathways for financial discipline. Think of it like creating a path through dense forest. The first trips require hacking through underbrush and climbing over fallen trees. Exhausting. But once that path exists and gets used regularly, walking becomes dramatically easier. This explains why so many people give up before reaching $10. They're doing the hardest psychological work without experiencing the rewards. It's like going to the gym for months without seeing results. Super discouraging. The research on this psychological shift is fascinating. Studies consistently show people who successfully save their first 10K reach 20K in half the time, even when their income stays exactly the same. This isn't about compound interest, though that helps. This is about a fundamental transformation in how your brain processes financial decisions. I remember talking with Melissa, a teacher who took nearly 3 years to save her first 10K. She described the process as pushing against invisible resistance every single payday. But after hitting that milestone, something clicked. She reached 20K just 14 months later, without a raise or lifestyle change. When I asked what changed, she said, "It just feels different now, like saving is the normal thing to do instead of the hard thing to do." Let me break down exactly what happens after you hit that magical 10K milestone. First, your value-based thinking kicks into high gear. Instead of agonizing over every purchase price, your brain automatically calculates long-term value. You naturally spend less on things that don't matter and invest more wisely in things that do. You're no longer fighting against your brain's impulses. Your default settings have actually changed. Second, your newfound financial optionality creates opportunities that literally didn't exist before. You can wait for sales, negotiate from strength, avoid predatory financial products, and take strategic risks that accelerate your wealth building. People with 10K regularly get better deals simply because they have the power to walk away. Finally, a confidence multiplier effect transforms how you see yourself financially. Once you've proven to yourself that you can save $10, your brain accepts that you're the type of person who builds wealth. This identity shift is incredibly powerful. Your actions naturally align with this new self-image without requiring the same willpower. These psychological shifts create a momentum that makes saving your next $10 feel almost effortless compared to the first. The discipline requires dramatically less mental energy because you're using established neural pathways instead of creating new ones. Think about it like learning to drive. Remember how overwhelming it was at first? You had to consciously think about every single movement, turning the key, checking mirrors, applying the right pressure to the gas pedal. Mentally exhausting. But now, you can drive while having a conversation or listening to a podcast because those driving actions have become automatic. Your brain has built efficient pathways for those behaviors. The same thing happens with your saving habits after 10K. Actions that once required immense willpower, like automatically transferring money to savings before spending on fun stuff, become your default mode of operation. You're not fighting against your instincts anymore. Your financial instincts have actually changed. This pattern shows up consistently across income levels. Even more fascinating is that this psychological shift occurs regardless of the specific number. It's about reaching what feels like a significant threshold for you. For some people, it might be $5 or $15K, but 10K seems to be the sweet spot for most. Understanding this paradox is incredibly valuable when you're struggling. Knowing that it genuinely gets easier can help you push through those moments when you're tempted to give up. It's like when you're in the hardest mile of your marathon and someone who's been there before tells you, the finish line is closer than you think, and crossing it changes everything. The mental marathon of reaching your first $10 is the hardest financial challenge many people will ever face. But once you cross that finish line, You don't just have more money, you have a transformed relationship with money that will benefit you for the rest of your life. From scarcity to strategy, your 10K action plan. That transformed relationship with money sounds amazing, but let's get real. If you're currently staring at a bank balance closer to $100 than $10,000, the whole thing might feel like a fantasy. What if the biggest obstacle isn't actually in your wallet, but hiding between your ears? The secret sauce to hitting $10 combines both dollars and psychology in a way most money gurus never mention. Here's the thing about creating your 10K action plan. You need a strategy that addresses what's happening in your bank account and in your brain. Most financial advice focuses exclusively on the mathematical side. Just spend less than you earn. Like, duh, thanks for that groundbreaking insight. But research shows that psychological factors are actually the make or break element for most people. Let's break down your complete 10K action plan that balances both the numbers and the mindset. Step 1, get financially honest. Get brutally honest about your starting point. I'm talking about the full financial selfie. List your assets and debts to determine your true net worth. This might feel uncomfortable, but it's your actual starting line. Calculate how much you can realistically save each month. Please don't set yourself up for failure with an ambitious number. For example, if you typically save $50 monthly, aim for $100 rather than jumping straight to $500. Research confirms that SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, significantly increase success rates. With your monthly savings target, map out a timeline. Saving $300 monthly means reaching 10K in about 33 months. Having this timeline visually mapped somewhere you'll see daily keeps the goal from feeling abstract. Step 2, implement psychological techniques. Don't wait for motivation. Implement the psychological techniques immediately. Visualization rewires your neural pathways. Automation with distance bypasses your brain's barriers to saving. Social media detox protects your financial psychology from lifestyle inflation. These techniques work even better together because they target different aspects of financial psychology. The math helps you plan, but the mindset helps you follow through. One client who implemented all three simultaneously increased her savings rate by 27% in the first month alone without changing her income or basic budget. Step 3. Create reward systems. This is where most financial plans drop the ball. They forget that our brains need regular rewards to stay motivated. Creating a visual tracking system with small psychological wins is crucial for maintaining momentum. Create a visual progress tracker with mini milestones every $500 or $250. Each time you hit a milestone, give yourself a small but meaningful reward. A movie night, favorite meal, or an hour doing something you love. The key is associating saving with positive feelings, not deprivation. Try creating a visual thermometer or progress bar you color in as your savings grow. This taps into what psychologists call the endowed progress effect. We're more motivated when we can see our progress. Each time you add to savings, color another section and feel good about it. This creates a psychological feedback loop where saving becomes rewarding. Step 4. Build accountability. Find an accountability partner or community with similar goals. This might sound optional, but research shows it's one of the most powerful predictors of financial success. When we make goals public to even one person, our likelihood of following through dramatically increases. Your accountability partner doesn't need to know all your financial details. They just need to check in regularly about whether you're taking your committed actions. Regular check-ins create external accountability that prevents goal sliding when motivation dips. Even better is joining a community working toward similar goals. This creates social reinforcement where saving habits become normalized instead of feeling like sacrifices. Look for local financial independence groups, online savings communities, or even one friend who's serious about building their first $10. What makes this four-step approach effective is addressing both sides of the financial equation. The practical steps ensure mathematical progress, while the psychological techniques ensure you sustain the effort required. I've seen people with modest incomes reach 10 calories much faster than high earners simply because they implemented these psychological strategies effectively. One client making $35,000 reached her first 10K in just 14 months by leveraging every psychological tool, while another making six figures took over 3 years because he relied solely on budgeting apps without addressing mindset. The balance is critical because saving through willpower alone is like dieting while working in a donut shop. Theoretically possible, practically doomed. Your brain has hardwired tendencies around money, and these strategies work with your psychology rather than against it. The accountability piece becomes even more important as you approach your goal. Research shows motivation naturally dips around 70 to 80% of the way to a goal when you're approaching $7,000 to $8,000 in savings. Having systems and people to keep you going during this motivation desert can determine whether you reach 10K or fall short. Remember that tiny wins matter enormously. Each time you transfer money to savings instead of spending it, you're rewiring neural pathways in your brain that make the next good decision easier. This compounding effect in your psychology is just as powerful as the compounding effect on your money. Let's wrap this up. The research doesn't lie. Nearly 60% of Americans can't handle a $1,000 emergency, which shows just how transformative hitting that 10K milestone really is. The power lies in that mental transformation. Your brain shifts from constant money panic to strategic future thinking. You move from a scarcity mindset that traps you to an abundance mindset that empowers smarter choices. Start implementing visualization techniques, automation hacks, and social media detoxes now. Your brain will begin rewiring before hitting the full $10, making the journey faster and less painful. This isn't just about a number, it's about transforming every money decision you'll make. Ready to build wealth that actually sticks? Your financially confident brain is waiting for you to make the first move.